Because of his great love, we are not consumed. For his compassions, they never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. Good morning, family. I come to you on this beautiful Wednesday, and I say that because yesterday I saw something that I hadn't seen in at least 48 hours, and it was the sun glaring through the clouds. It simply made me remember that God has a hand of destruction, and God also has a hand of love and compassion. It made me remember the pact that God made with Noah when he said, never again will I destroy the earth with water. God said that I'm going to make a covenant with you, Noah, that every time you see the rainbow in the sky, you will know and remember my love for you. Here in Lamentations chapter 3, in verse 22, the author simply states it like this. He says, because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed. It's difficult sometimes to feel the love of God when you're going through something as terrible as Hurricane Harvey. When you're dealing with floodwaters up to your roof, and when you're dealing with a shortage of food and supplies, and when you're dealing with family who's sick and other family members who've lost loved ones in the storm, it's difficult to see and understand that God's compassion never fails. But even in the midst of the rain, even in the midst of the floodwaters that seem that they would never go down, the sun still shines. And even while folk were hurting and reaching out for help, I tell you that there were rescuers coming from as far away as New York. They were driving here from East Texas with dragging boats with no compensation. They were sticking their boats in the water, rescuing people from the flood. I tell you that great is God's compassion and his love for us. He shows it to us every single day. Whenever a tragedy strikes, it seems our country can be divided by some of the most trivial things like race, color, and creed and gender. But when these times happen in our lives, something beautiful seems to happen. There's something about tragedy that seems to bring us all together. People begin praying when tragedy strikes. People begin to get out of their houses and check on their neighbors when tragedy strikes. People begin to become the true hands of God whenever tragedy strikes. I want you to know, people of God, that the Lord often shows his compassion for us through you and me. Some of the greatest compassion that the Lord will ever show will come through you, your neighbors, your friends, strangers you've never met. God shows his compassion for mankind through people, through those folk who love him the most. Isn't it interesting that at churches all over Houston, Texas, churches are canceling services and they are building shelters and giving out clothes and food. They are becoming the hands and feet of God. Could it be that all the other Sundays that you've been worshiping the Lord, that God has set you up, divinely orchestrated this thing so that you could be the hands and feet, so now you can put some feet on your prayers, as the old folks say? That now you can truly become the children of God because you're reaching out to mankind, showing them God's love? I tell you, great is God's compassion for us. The author goes on to write this, and I love this. He says, they are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. I don't know about you, but when I woke up this morning and I began to see the sun cracking the clouds, and when I began to smell some of the fresh air coming off of the flood waters that have been sitting in our community, I tell you, I began to praise God and worship him. I heard the sounds of the birds once again. I hadn't heard them chirp in the past 2 or 3 days, but just to hear the birds singing in the background, it made me worship and praise God. Great is your faithfulness, God. Even after the storm, Lord, even after the rain, Lord, even after communities have been flooded, God, houses underwater, people hurting, you bring the sun and the birds back, showing us once again that you have not abandoned us. I want to tell you that great is his faithfulness. And I don't care what you've been through. I don't care if you've lost everything. I don't care if you've lost. I don't want you ever to forget that God's compassions never fail. I don't want you to forget that God is great and his love, his great love, his faithfulness will never cease to exist for you. I know times are tough. I've seen some of the highest water I've ever seen, and I've seen some folks hurting and weeping because they lost everything. But I thank God that even in those moments, we're able to go over and give them a handshake, give them a hug, and say the Lord is going to bring you through. And I want to leave that with you this morning. The Lord is going to bring you through, people of God. Great is his faithfulness, his love and compassions never fail. The Lord is with you this morning. Be blessed, endure through all your trials, and know that our God is still faithful. Just endure through your trials and know that he's with you. Be blessed.